Hey guys, Jason Spangler, the SanteeSwapper here. This is not really truly an unboxing video, although I did just open up this package that came overnight to me via UPS. The guy had the patch in multiple layers of protection, which is pretty nice because this is a good patch. So just to kind of tease you a little bit, if any of you follow what I'm doing, putting out content on the internet, some time ago, maybe several months ago, I actually just rewatched it last night to kind of remind myself of what I had said at the time. I did a video about my Order the Arrow flap collection, and so I grabbed this box just to kind of give me a little way to kind of recap that before I show you what I got in today. So I started collecting flaps, one flap from every lodge, back at the 1997 Jamboree, and especially over the last year, I've really tried to get that collection organized. I've really tried to, made labels. I got all my flaps organized. If you go back and watch that video, it also talks about how the good fortune I had in January of 2021, where I bought a flap collection that was about 15 to 1800 pieces, and I was able to go through that collection and really glean out a lot of my needs. Probably 20 needs were in that collection. Since that time, I've made some private deals with people to get more ones that I needed. Bought a few things off eBay, spending a lot of money on eBay. And what my collection is, just to kind of give you this picture, is I want to get a flap from every lodge that is issued a flap. And so that's a lot. It's over 700 lodges. And the way it kind of works out is that I decided I really wanted to have a Swiss embroidered pre-fleur-de-lis flap. So in my collection, that's what you'll see. Every flap in here is pre-fleur-de-lis. Sometimes it's a Swiss, sometimes it's a twill. And it does allow me to kind of cheat, I guess. Some of you are going to accuse me of and not get patches like a Gimagash or something where there's a patch or a neckerchief, but there's no flap that goes with the lodge. They never issued a flap. But I grew up as kind of a flap collector in the 80s and 90s, and so that's been the rule for my collection, just flaps. That's kind of what I wanted. However, here's the problem you run into. Even if you create these rules that maybe kind of make it easier for you to complete a collection, there are always going to be certain patches, certain lodges where it is just going to be a killer patch to get in order to fill that need. And so if you go back and think about flaps, if you're going to get one flap from each lodge, some of those lodges, they only had one patch, and that patch was a flap, and so it's on your list. And if you want to get it, it's going to be a killer. Some of the ones that I picked up through deals in the last year, a 177 Victorio, I got a 219 Calusa, a 346 Wiyaka, I got a 352 Zingwak. Buying on eBay, I got a couple of other ones here, but I've been kind of wheeling and dealing and getting some. Joe Taylor, if you're watching this collection, Joe helped me get 3 of the needs on my list. And so my needs list is now getting pretty slim. I think I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I have 8 needs left on my list, and 2 of those I have like historical issues. I think in one case I might even have a Z that's sort of a Lion Brothers Z, and so I might just kind of sit on the sideline with those, because my goal is to put these into a display and by summer camp of next year have this collection finished and be able to take it to summer camp and basically say, boom, here's 15, 16 frames full of every flap that ever came out. So the ones that I sort of am sitting on the partials, I have for 542 Comanche, I have a historical flap that the lodge later put out, the lodge that it merged into. And it's a really good looking Lion Brothers flap, so I might just hold on to that and not really lose any sleep over that. Same story with Lodge 446 from Mexico. Actually, there was a twill, there was an F1 that was for sale on eBay this week, and I didn't bid on it. It was like $1,000. But I have a solid embroidered one that looks really pretty good. It's a ZS1, it's fine. But you might want to know, what do I still need? So I still need a 181 Mohegan. I still need, this is the biggest one I need a 241 Tomahawk. So that's from Kentucky, and some of you will know that Tomahawk Lodge, with that name, only existed for a short time before changing the name. I need a 304, which actually one of those sold on eBay, I think back in May, I think, and I didn't get it. I actually was focused on some other lodges that the same seller was selling, and I missed out on that one. Somebody else got it. I need a 311 Cuban show. I need a 525 Pachachoag. That's a weird spelling where they had the original flap has a spelling, and then by the time they made the next patch, they had fixed the spelling, Indian name. And so anyways, that's kind of a weird one. But that's not why you're watching this video. Why you're watching this video is to find out what is the Holy Grail. What patch did I land that I would consider the Holy Grail of this collection? So if you kind of go back to my needs list here, I have 8 patches, was 9 patches before about 10 o'clock this morning when I went to the UPS store and picked up this envelope. And the way this went down was actually through Facebook. So if you're watching this on Facebook Live, there is a great network of people there. You think about networking, going to traderies and things like that, talking to people and stuff. That's great. Also in our Scout Patch Collectors Facebook group, there is kind of a fellowship there of people who communicate and share. And so it happened very, very randomly this week. I was dealing on something completely different, and a guy called me. We were talking about it, and he got to talking about what he collected, and I got to talking about what I collected. And he kind of had this project he was working on, and I told him that I was collecting these flaps. And I said, I need all these hard ones, and he said, well, I've actually got that one, and I don't look at it very often. It just kind of sits in a notebook or sits in a box or sits in a safety deposit box. I'm not sure where he kept this one. He offered to sell it to me, and the price was exactly what he paid for it. So it was not a bargain. It was not cheap. This patch now ranks as one of the most expensive patches that I've ever bought. Single patch that I've bought, I probably could say this is the most expensive patch that I've ever bought. I bought back about 10 years ago 4 patches from Untitled Lodge in Charleston, the chenille and all 3 of the dancer flaps, and I got that in a package deal for much more than what I paid for this patch. But this is the single most expensive patch, definitely by far. So I'm wondering, I'm just curious, would some of you want to throw out a guess in the comments as to what the Holy Grail would be? So again, if you kind of narrow it down, the parameters are, it has to be a lodge that only issued a flap, and technically this lodge did issue one other item, but I also wouldn't consider that part of they didn't issue an arrowhead or anything else. They issued one flap, and then they went away, and they no longer exist. And so this one, it's pretty good. So it's just really cool because, it's sort of like, to me, what's happening is that on this needs list, everything else on this needs list is like half as hard as this. Like this is twice as hard, twice as expensive as anything else on this needs list. And so just in terms of like having a very ambitious goal for collecting anything in this hobby, if you can kind of get the hardest, most expensive, most blah, blah, blah item for that collection, then it feels like everything else is very doable. And so, drum roll please. Dun, da, da, da. So I don't know if you figured it out yet, but I got a Baluga. And this Baluga is in perfect condition. It is a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful example of this flap. And for those of you, so the guy I got it from, he told me he thought this was one of the prettiest designs of any flap, which maybe it's also just because it's so freaking rare. But I'm sure most of you who are advanced collectors already know the story on this flap, but the PI right there, so this is Lodge 538. The PI stands for Philippine Islands, and this was an Order the Arrow Lodge at in the Philippines. I'm going to struggle to remember the name of the military base, but essentially there's a big military base there. Obviously they had a Boy Scouts of America program, and this OA Lodge existed for a short period of time before being merged, and I'm Probably should have looked this up before I jumped on the video, but obviously would have probably merged back into Far East Council, Lodge 498, and eventually there's a Baluga chapter of that lodge, and so they made some flaps, and there's a whole bunch of fakes of this, and the fakes even go for a lot of money, but this is the legit one. So it's got, one way you identify it by the blue book is these little stripes right here, these little, I'm not sure if they're called rays or how they phrase them there, line, I think they call them lines. So this has the 7 lines. So this is the legit patch. Darren Thomas, other friends who collect first flaps, things like that, if you're watching, this is a good day for me. If you're going to Camp Barstow in South Carolina next summer, hopefully this patch will be in a frame with all the other flaps in my collection, and I'll be able to kind of let the scouts see this. So this is kind of a holy grail piece. Definitely the most expensive patch I've ever bought, just a single patch all by itself, which is, you know, for me, I've always sort of say that I run a hobby business, and that's how I framed it for a long, long time. Even when I started selling patches 25 years ago, I used to literally make my own little sales lists, and I would carry to fellowships and try to sell patches at OA Lodge events. And the only reason I sold patches was so I could have money to buy patches that I wanted. And in many ways, my business today still kind of functions on that principle, that I'm selling lots of $5 and $10 and $20 patches, hopefully some more expensive patches. It is a business. I have a warehouse and I have employees. Actually, 2 of them are working right now in another room shipping out orders. But ultimately, they're still a collector, right? And so I'm ultimately, you know, selling stuff and accumulating some money that I can then invest in some pieces that I really, really want for my collection. And so getting this Baluga is sort of a holy grail item that will just be a sort of a, you know, kind of a showstopper, right? And it has a great story behind it, and anybody who's sort of a serious OA collector would look at this and be like, you know, that's pretty badass. So it's a good day for me. I know that the way that this works is, you know, I can't like, you know, give you the same luck that I've had, but I would just say that it was, for me, it was a great reminder that we should all be connecting with other collectors, sharing what you collect, what your needs list is. I'm very bad about that because selling on eBay in the quantity that I do, the volume I do, I'm bombarded by messages all day long. And so the thought of me trying to network out and reach out to a dozen different people in a week and say, hey, what are you collecting? What are you, that just doesn't work that way. I'm overwhelmed. And when I get home, I try to spend time with my family. So, but luckily, like I said, this guy who might even be watching this video, we connected and he had this flap and he was ready to sell it. And I said, when he told me the price, I said, done, because I had already been told that's kind of what they went for. So I paid the going rate, which is what he paid, and so on and so forth. And so I don't know that, that I will ever sell this one myself. I jokingly say that I'm going to leave a bunch of patches behind for my children to deal with because I would never bring myself to sell them, but who knows, we'll see. But anyways, I just wanted to film this video because for me this was a momentous thing to get a holy grail item, and I just got it. I literally opened this envelope just before starting the video, so it's very, very fresh. So anyways, I hope you appreciate seeing some good cloth, and I will definitely enjoy this Baluga.